Hello everybody, welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name's Deshaun and today I'm here to review Marvel's Eternals. Now, this movie has been very divisive. Like right now, ain't looking good. Not looking good for this movie. It really isn't. It's a 40% in Rotten Tomatoes. First ever rotten MCU film. It's got an 80-something% audience score, so not too bad there. But it has a B cinema score, which is really bad. Like, it's the lowest rated Marvel movie ever. It's the lowest rated cinema score ever. Like, and to put that in perspective, an A- is considered the low. A B+ is considered disappointing. A B, it's pretty bad. I mean, granted, you gotta be like, it's like you think B is still a positive grade, but no, like you want your blockbuster to be somewhere in the A's. A+, which is a rarity. A-, A+, something like that. Put it in context. Shang-Chi was an A, solid A. Black Widow was an A-. To put that in context, even Thor: Dark World was a B+. So this movie right now, by almost any metric, is at this point in the MCU the biggest failure. It's a rotten movie. It's not even like, although it's got a great audience score, it doesn't have it doesn't have a good cinema score, which is a really good indicator because if you don't know, the cinema scores are honestly the best indicator of how audiences feel, because the cinema score people, they ask people when they come out of the theaters and then, give a grade based on the many people they ask coming out of the theaters. So that's like, that's no bullshit. You can't really screw with those numbers. It's like they're asking people coming out of the theaters. So I always try to shout out Cinema Score because people don't really talk about Cinema Score enough, but they're the real audience indicator of the audience. If you got a pretty decent Cinema Score, then audiences are really riding with your movie. But unfortunately, this movie doesn't. Now, I will tell you this. While this movie, in my opinion, isn't the best Marvel movie, it is not nearly as bad as people are making it out to be. Nowhere near that. And the end of the day, me and Seth both kind of ended up falling on a 7.5 for this movie. I felt the same way I felt watching Captain Marvel and Guardians 2, where I walked out, I had a good time with what I was seeing, and there are aspects of it that I think were great. First of all, I think this is some of the best CGI in a comic book film. So much seamless CGI. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I did watching it. I'm like, this CGI is incredible. There are so many sequences where the only reason I'm aware that it's CGI is because of the deviant creatures. But it's so seamless how they go from them doing a normal situation to the CGI stuff. They do it so smooth, so seamless that I'm like, damn, man, they really got this shit down, man. They really got this shit down. So I'm going to start with the positives I have for this film. First of all, I enjoyed all the cast members. I enjoyed the Eternals themselves. I enjoyed all the characters. I enjoyed their interplay. I enjoyed that they all had something. They all had something that made them unique, that made them stand out, that made them memorable. Problem is, as this movie's about 2 hours and 20 minutes. I say it's about 2 hours and 20 minutes. And for as long as the length is, because I couldn't quite understand. When I kept seeing people go, oh, I wish there was more time to spend on the characters. Oh, there's too much time not having a lot of action going on. I'm like, how's that even possible? If they're not doing action sequences, they're spending time on the characters. But what I didn't know is that they spend also an awful lot of time doing world building. Interesting, fascinating world building. At least to me, it was interesting, fascinating world building. And seeing the fucking Celestials and the scale of them, and it's pretty out there. And then when you find out I don't want to spoil anything for you, but when you find out the secrets, man, there's a reveal and a twist that happens that are both fantastic. And he's just like, whoa. Like I said, there are some things in this movie that are just like, whoa. First of all, their powers were cool. Particularly for me, Makari. The way they did her speed was so cool, because I'm just like, I agree with some people out there who say they're kind of tired of the slow motion to indicate speed. Like, I am too. Like, I'm like, I'm over it because it's been overdone. The Flash has done it. Obviously Marvel's done it with Quicksilver. Every movie that has a speedster in it, they always do slow motion to indicate that they're a speedster. And it's like, okay, I've seen this a billion times now. Can you come up with a new way? And like they kind of do it differently by just showing you it from Makari's perspective and her speed and how fast she is and how she uses her speed to, like, she just stops to make shock waves, and all that was cool. Some of Phastos's technology was really cool. Kumail Nanjiani is entertaining as always in this film, and he has pretty much the most fun, and he has the funniest lines of the film, especially with this whole thing going on with him being a movie star, so that was a bit fun. There are some real deep cuts. The problem, like, there are some real deep cuts, but the action set pieces are fun. The cinematography is vast and very well done. And I just love seeing the Celestials. I just love seeing the Celestials and the scales. And the 2 post-credit scenes are great. They are good. They are really good, and they set up a lot, especially that first one. That first one, it was just like, is that? And then someone else shows up, and you're like, oh shit! Alright. I got questions. The last one left you with questions too, because you're just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you kind of see it coming, especially if you're a comic book fan like me. You see it coming, but it still leaves you like, what the fuck is about to happen? But I digress. I don't want to get into spoilers or anything. If I had to get into the negatives, why this movie doesn't rise to an 8, which some parts of it I do feel like are really, I do think this is top-notch CGI. The best part about this movie that I think is on some top-notch shit is the CGI. I think that the CGI is so seamless sometimes that sometimes like when Icarus starts flying and shit, sometimes it's so smoothly done that I'm just like, damn, did they just like lift Richard Madden up into the air? Which, I mean, sure they did a couple times, but it just feels like that sometimes. How smoothly it's done. The negatives come, and honestly, these aren't really negatives so much as things that I think that would hurt other people. My negatives are, the movie is a bit long in the tooth. It is a bit long in the tooth. Not too bad to me, but it could be to someone else, and I noticed it. Also, as I said before, they do spend a little much time world building, and I did feel like they probably could have took some time away from trying to build out the mythos of them by showing a couple flashbacks, which I enjoyed them and I didn't mind them, but I did think to myself, you know, they probably could have took some time out of that to put into more character stuff if they wanted to. Like, because it's about 30 minutes of flashback, like about 20 minutes of flashback stuff that's important to the story. 25 minutes of flashback stuff that's important to the story. And, you know, but you could have probably, you didn't have to show it all. You probably could have taken out some of that and you know, and did more context stuff. Also, there's a death of a character that I really was sad to see die, and especially since, you know, there's a death of a character that I was really sad to see die, especially since I was like, oh man, I really like this character. He was really fun in this movie, and I really wanted to see more of him, and I really didn't like it. I didn't think it was necessary, especially once you get to the end. It really felt like a waste anyways. It felt like it wasn't necessary whatsoever. So I do feel that kind of hurt me too. Also, there are things in this movie that just aren't going to work for people. First of all, it's a slower movie. It's a slower movie. Seth brought this up, and, you know, I felt it, but it didn't bother me. I guess because I watched Nomadland, and I know what kind of style Chloe Zhao wants to go for, and, you know, I'm not the rushing type, you know. As long as I got a good story, I don't care how long it takes me to get it. But I'm a patient guy when it comes to things like that. So maybe it didn't really bother me as much as it did Seth. But for me, I do see it as something that's going to bother people, and something that will rightfully bother people is that it's a bit slower. It's a slower movie, you know, and it takes its time to like really get into certain aspects. But like I said, the problem is that it keeps going back and forth between world building and character stuff, but it does it so often that you never really get to settle in one way or the other. Like in the beginning, when me and Seth were watching it, we were like, oh cool, so this is what we're gonna get. We're gonna get this world building stuff now. Then it switches back to the main story. And then we kind of go back to world building stuff, switches back to the main story. And it never quite has enough time to settle in on any of these locations. I kind of do I start to agree with certain people who say maybe this would have been better as a Disney Plus show. Maybe this would have been better as a Disney Plus show, because at least they could take their time and get into each of the characters and get into the stuff. This probably would have been much better off as that. So, and I kind of sort of agree. I kind of sort of agree that it should have probably been a Disney Plus show so that they can really settle in on certain aspects of it. And the villains to me, while they're not while they're not great at all, they're not terrible because they don't do enough to be considered terrible. You know what I mean? They're not like Malekith or Whiplash where they're on screen and you're just acting like these are terrible villains. They're there, they serve a purpose, they're there, they serve their purpose, and they're gone. To me, they're like Ronan the Accuser to me. I know a lot of people think Ronan the Accuser is a terrible villain, and I get it. I'm not gonna like argue with you over it. But to me, characters like Ronan the Accuser, Aldrich Killian, shit, who's the other guy? I know there's another character. Yellow Jacket. Characters like that, they're there to serve a purpose, and as long as their purpose that they're serving is, served, I'm fine with them. I don't need them all to be, fantastic. I don't need them all to be like the villain, like Wenwu in Shang-Chi. Like you get, like not all of them have to be that to me. Like I don't need them all to be Wenwu and Shang-Chi. Because Wenwu was just so great in that, and the Mandarin, he was so great. I don't need them all to be him. Sometimes you just need them to serve a purpose to the characters and whatnot, and them themselves, whatever. But like, and if that might be a big hurt for some people, but I can't deny that they're not good villains. They're not good villains. They serve a purpose. They serve their purpose and they're out. And if that's the best I can ask for, sure, why not? They serve their purpose. And at the end of the day, I ended up settling on maybe a 7.5 to an 8. It's not the best movie. It really isn't. It's not as great as it could have been, as it was rumored to be. But it's nowhere near as bad as people were like trying to spinning it to be. It's right up by, honestly, it's right in the same department with like Captain Marvel. It's better than Iron Man 2. It's better than Thor: The Dark World. It's better than like something like that. But the problem is that those movies, even though they're bad, like the thing that's hurting this movie really is even though this movie is better than some of those movies in the MCU, it's better than some of the lower movies in the MCU, it's so different and it's done so slow and it's done differently and it has a different kind of pace to it and it has a different kind of vibe to it. It's not the typical fast-paced MCU film, and since it's done like that, it alienates it. What's the word I'm looking for? It almost. I'm trying to think. It almost makes it worse because of its different nature and the pace that it's going at. That's different than the MCU. In a way, watching Thor, Dark World, and Iron Man 2, and a Captain Marvel, the lower tier MCU movies, Avengers, Age of Ultron, maybe even you went through Black Widow in there. They're so, MCU movies, punch out, get out, that I suppose there is a bit of it that at least it was done. You know what I mean? At least I watched it. It's an hour and about 50 minutes. I watched it. It hit me with everything, and it's done. And, there's not too much to analyze there except to go, I didn't think this was great. But this movie takes its time. It's about 2 hours and 30, maybe 2 hours and 20 minutes. So it's like, it's even more time to sit in this. As if this movie was shorter, it probably would have gotten a better reaction because it would have just simply been shorter. So like less people would have had, like, it would have been harder to be harsh on it because it wouldn't have been as long of the time you spent watching it. But I think the length of time actually hurt this movie too, in terms of like, if someone already had something negative to say, they even have more negatives to say because it's a longer film. So even that hurt this movie. There's a lot of things that hurt this movie. I know they're guaranteed though near the end that the Eternals will return, so maybe I was wrong about my whole theory that they weren't going to come back. Well, I don't know about a sequel. I'm not sure they're going to get a sequel movie, It was pretty rough, but I do feel comfortable saying that if they do come back with a sequel, they're going to reboot it. Well, not reboot it. They're going to bring in a new director. They're going to bring in a new crew. They're going to bring up some new people. They're going to punch this thing up hardcore. They're going to really punch this up. They really are. They're going to punch this up. They can get new people on it. They're going to reestablish it. Because, if you can reestablish after Thor, Dark World, it shouldn't be too hard to reestablish after this. And they're going to come out and the sequel's going to be like, boom. Because there's a lot of great building blocks here. There's a lot of great characters to do more stuff with. A lot of great lore to mess with. I can't wait to see if they do come out with a sequel. I'll be there. But that is my thoughts on Eternals. Not the bomb that everyone's making it out to be, but it ain't the best MCU movie either. It's not like I walked out of this movie thinking to myself, oh my god, these fucking idiots, this is a 10 out of 10 film, what are you talking about? No, I walked out like, okay, it has some problems, but it ain't that fucking bad. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please don't like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.